As an introduction, my name's Maggie. I'm the Director of Client Relations and Growth here at Thundertix. And I'll let my co-host introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Callie. I am the Customer Success Manager here at Thundertix. You have probably seen my name and my picture on your support requests, but I'm very excited to be here and excited to get into volunteer management.
So, that being said, let's get started. So, volunteer management. There's a few things we're going to be covering today. How to create a role for your volunteers, how to create your volunteers, themselves in your system, or how they can sign up to be a volunteer, how to create standalone opportunities for your volunteers or opportunities that are tied to events. And then we're going to show you some reporting that you can, view the reports, your volunteer hours, and, so on and so forth. Okay, so first thing I wanted to point out is in this left-hand menu, majority of what we're going to be doing today is under this Volunteer Manager tab. Now, we're going to be filming this webinar, so keep in mind we'll be able to send this out to all of you, but if you would like to log into Thundertix and follow along on your own account, you're welcome to do so. So, first thing we're going to review is how to create a role. Now, if you decide to set up, your volunteers in Thundertix, I highly recommend the first step that you do is create roles. So to get into that, first we're going to click on your volunteer manager, and then we're going to click into roles here. So you can see we have a list of roles that we can set up. It's pretty much a list of anything you need from your volunteers, whether that's ticket scanning, concessions, greeters, social media managers, whatever type of volunteer role you need in your venue, you can set up as a list here. Now, to create a new role, we're just going to click on this green button up here that says New Role. And it's going to pop up this box that's going to allow us to enter the role. We'll say we're looking for a ticket scanner, a description of the role. So we can say, scans tickets at the front door. We have a requirements section. So if you did have a specific requirement for a role, let's say for a ticket scanner, we want them to be tech savvy. Or for a social media manager, we want them to know how to use Instagram. There's a few things you can put in that box as well if you'd like to, but it's not a requirement to put a requirement. So we'll say tech savvy for our ticket scanner, and then we can label it with a color of our choice. We're going to do green today. Now, once we save that role, it's going to populate in our list here. There's a few things we can do in this section with roles. You can always click select and modify if you want to update the description, requirements, or name of the role. And you can save that and it will update there. We also have this status column here. So if you ever had a role that you want to inactivate either permanently or just for a little while, you can always click on this active button here, and that will inactivate the role that you created. If you want to look at your inactive list, you can click over here to inactive, and you can see your list of, inactive roles. You can always click inactive to pull that role back over into an active status. So just a few items you can do there. Another thing you can do if you click select is you can delete a role if you'd like to, but keep in mind you won't be able to delete any roles that have already been assigned to volunteers or used by volunteers. So just a good thing to know. And as always, we have a history section. If any edits are made to roles and you want to see who edited the role and what the edits were, you can always click this history button to check it out. So this is our roles section. Now, keep in mind, creating a role is not the same thing as creating an actual opportunity, a volunteer opportunity. What we have to do is we have to take that role and tie it to a volunteer opportunity, whether that's within an event or a standalone opportunity. So this is just going to be your baseline of creating those roles that you can then tie into opportunities. Now, before we go into actually creating those opportunities, we first need to actually have volunteers. So I wanted to show you the two ways that you can, create volunteers in Thundertix. The first way is going to be internally as a venue administrator. So some, venues don't want people to be able to publicly sign up to volunteer. They want to manage it internally. So this first way that I'm about to show you is pretty much if you are going to, sign up volunteers yourself through Thundertix internally. So to do that, we're actually going to go up here and click in the top right corner of our account settings, and then we're going to click on users. So this is a really good thing to know about using our volunteer management feature is that all volunteers have to be created as users. The reason we do that is because when you sign up a volunteer as a user, we're going to send them an email so they can create a password and actually create a Thundertix account. The reason we do that is because when your volunteers log in, they're going to be able to see their schedule. They're going to be able to see other volunteer opportunities they can sign up for, and so on and so forth. So we do require that these volunteers actually do create a Thundertix account. And I will be showing you that, later on what that account looks like. But first and foremost, let's create our new user as a volunteer. What we're going to do is click that green Add User button, and it's going to bring us into this form that probably many of you have seen before. It's going to prompt you to fill out this basic information about the volunteer. You could fill out a box about, tell us a little bit more about yourself if you know about that person. And the most important thing to make sure this user is being signed up as a volunteer is this box right here. Would you like to create the user as an approved volunteer? So you're going to go ahead and toggle that to yes. When you do that, it's going to pop up this box. This box is pretty much saying that you understand that signing up this user in Thundertix does not mean that this volunteer will have access to the support forum, as in submitting support requests and getting that direct support. We would expect you to manage those volunteers, but they will have access to our support articles. So this box is just asking you to acknowledge that. So we're going to click I understand. And then that's going to show us available roles. That's why I said create the roles first, because it's kind of the first part of this entire process. As when you sign up your volunteers, then you're going to be able to select, which roles that this volunteer is, wanting to do or is, able to do. So we can click a few options there. And then you can click create, which is going to create your, new volunteer. Now, when you click create, you can go back to your volunteer manager and you can click into the second option here that says volunteers. So when you do that, you're going to see this new user show up in this volunteers tab. A good thing to know is when you sign them up internally as a venue admin, they're already going to be accepted as a volunteer. There's not going to be a process of approving a volunteer through an application. They'll already be as accepted status. This volunteer will also, again, receive that email to create a password and be able to then log into a Thundertix account, a volunteer account. So once we have our volunteer here that we've created internally, we can always click on back into their profile. And this is where we're going to be able to visualize, the description, any of their, information. We'll be able to visualize this volunteer's schedule, their upcoming schedule and past assignments, and any upcoming opportunities that that volunteer could, potentially have. Now, we're going to be going over all of this more in depth in a little bit once we create these opportunities, but I did just want to show you what the volunteer profile looks like here. Alrighty. So now that we've gone over how you create a volunteer internally, there's this secondary option, which is really great. And it's pretty much the option to be able to let your volunteers sign up on a public site. So if we scroll to the very top of the page, we're going to see this box right here. It says public volunteer sign up. And if we click this little drop down here, you're going to see a few options. You can toggle this on, which is pretty much going to add a link on your public events page that will allow people to click into that link and fill out a form to request to become a volunteer with you. Now, you can always attach a survey to this sign up. A lot of people will do that in the sense that they'll ask, what days do you like to work? Are you good with dogs? Or, you could ask them a bunch of different questions that's related to your venue if you wanted to learn more about them through that sign up process. Just an aside, to create a survey, as a reminder, you just have to go to this surveys button here in your left-hand menu and create a survey. It will show up in this drop down. And then lastly, you'll see a link. So some people will generate a QR code and post it around their venue for people to scan and sign up that way. Some people will post it on their social media platforms. So we wanted to make it easy for you to be able to find that link. So it's always just going to be placed right down here in this box. Now, if I have this toggled on, I do want to show you what this looks like on the public facing side. So to get to my, public display, I can click on my public display settings and view public display. And this is going to bring us to our public site. This is our test theater, the Velvet Paw. And you'll see now that we've toggled this on, we have this button here that says become a volunteer. So it's going to, auto-populate that button on your, public display page. So if we click into this, you can see this looks very similar to what we filled out on the user side, right? Of creating a user. They're going to be required to fill out this information. They can add a profile picture, tell us a little bit about why they feel they're a good fit for our organization. And then once again, you're going to see these roles listed. So they can select whichever roles they feel like they're a good fit for or have the requirements to do. And then lastly, you can see our survey here, what inspired you to volunteer with us, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there is a slightly different process when a volunteer signs up on the public side. So if I click sign up to volunteer, what's going to happen to me as a venue admin, I'm going to go back to my page here, is I'm going to see them populate again in my volunteers list, but their status will be pending. So anytime someone signs up from the public site, we do have to approve them as a volunteer. So if I go in and I, review their profile and like what I see, I can always click the pending button, and I can decide to accept this volunteer. Now, I've talked a little bit about the emails that the volunteers will receive when they go through this process. So there's a few things I just want to touch on with those emails that get sent out to the volunteers. We actually have templates for these emails. So if you go into your left-hand menu, you can click on templates here. You will see we have both the volunteer sign-up email and the volunteer welcome email. If you sign up, or somebody signs up on the public-facing site, they're going to first receive the volunteer sign-up email, pretty much the email that acknowledges that they, requested to be a volunteer, that we're reviewing their application, whatever it may be. And then there's the second email. Once we approve of that volunteer, the volunteer welcome email will get sent out to them. And when I say we, I mean you. just clarification there. Now, I did want to show you what this looks like. Just so you can kind of see an example of what this email could look like. It has your logo on it. And again, you can make edits to this in those templates. But yeah, you'll see we have this thank you for signing up email. Your application is now under review, or however you'd like to put it, whatever process you all want to go through. And then we have this email. This is the email that Thundertix will all send out to the volunteers once they're approved to set up their password and get logged into their account. And they will also receive the you're approved email. So you're approved to be a volunteer. It kind of gives them that confirmation, you're good to go, create your password, and go on from that. So just wanted to show you that process a little bit there. Now, if you have a lot of volunteers that are signing up, it might get overwhelming at times to constantly come back and check this list. So we've actually set up an email notification setting where you can automatically get an email anytime someone signs up to be a volunteer. To do that, I just want to show you real quick. You're going to go back into your account settings and you can click email notifications. And if you scroll down to alerts, you're going to see when a volunteer signs up. That way you can put in your email and it's going to show you or send you an email whenever that volunteer signs up so you can maybe manage it a little bit better. So just an option here. This is such a great feature. If you haven't checked it out, check out our email notification setting. There's lots of notifications you can get there. Alrighty. So we've covered two things so far. We've covered how to create roles and we've created volunteers, both on our public facing site, which is an option, or internally as venue admins, adding them as users and getting those emails sent out. So from here, I think the next thing we can learn is how to actually create opportunities for these volunteers. Now, like I discussed, there's two different types of opportunities you can create. You can, one, create opportunities that are tied to specific events and performances, or you can create standalone opportunities that aren't necessarily tied to those events or performances. So, I just want to point this out here. If I go into my event manager, I'm going to see a list of all of my active events here, upcoming active events. So then if I go into my volunteer manager and click on volunteer assignments, you're going to see the same list populate. This is where I'm going to be able to create events or opportunities that are tied to specific events, is through volunteer manager and volunteer assignments. Now, if I'm looking at all of my active events, what I can do is go and click this green Manage button. And that's going to bring me into this setting where I'm going to be able to tie a role or multiple roles to an event. So I can click on any role that I need for this specific event. Let's just say we need a greeter. And it's going to pop up this box that allows me to set the number of volunteers, maximum amount of volunteers that I need for this role, when they should arrive, and when they should depart. We'll say 1 and 2 hours. And I can create this new volunteer opportunity. So we'll click Create here. And I can see that show up here. I need my volunteers. I need them to arrive 1 hour prior and, leave after 2 hours. And I can do that for as many roles as I need to. So I can go and click into my inventory manager. I can say that I need 3 here, and maybe we'll do the same time period. Click create. And I can just continue to create all of those roles, for my specific event. Now, if I have multiple performances within an event, these will be listed down in the second box. And after I create these specific opportunities, the next step of that is actually assigning volunteers to those opportunities. So after I've done that, I'm going to be able to see all of my performances here, and I can simply click Assign Volunteers, this green button here. Now, if no volunteers have been assign to the performance yet. There, I can click Assign Volunteer, and a list of volunteers that specifically have greater in their volunteer profile will populate for me to be able to go in and assign, whoever I need to this volunteer opportunity. So we're going to assign Marcus, and we can go in and assign Richard. And I can see that both of them are now signed up for this volunteer opportunity. Now, I'm going to go back here. I can see over here that I have two total volunteers signed up for this. You again can always manage this if you click Assign Volunteers. It's again going to show you the list of volunteers that are assigned to this specific performance and the specific roles that you've set for that performance. I also want to pull out or point out this button up here, the Send Mass Mail feature. So for any specific events, I can go in and send a mass mail to any volunteers that have signed up, to work the specific events. Keep in mind that this feature is only available to our clients who have the mass mail upgrade. If you want to learn more about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to Callie and I via a support request, and we're happy to assist you with that. But this is a really great way to easily communicate with your volunteers. Any information, please make sure you wear closed-toed shoes. If you want to send out a quick email, this would be a really great way to do it. You can also create templates that will allow you to save those templates and just resend them out. A really easy way to kind of quickly communicate with your volunteers. So yeah, that is kind of the first way we can create opportunities for a specific event, for specific performances, and then assign volunteers to those events or performances. Now, the second thing we can do is our standalone opportunities. So we're going to go back into our volunteer manager and we're going to click on standalone opportunities. So you can see we have our list of opportunities here. Let's create a new opportunity so we can kind of walk through that process. So we'll click the green Create Opportunity. Once again, we have to select a role that's assigned to this opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and select social media management. And let's say I need two volunteers. My opportunity title, take pictures and post on social media. But again, keep in mind, I'm not necessarily tying this to a specific event. This is just a standalone opportunity that people can sign up for. I can choose to make this recurring or not. Let's say I want somebody to come in, once a week to post on social media. So I can, mark this as a weekly recurring volunteer opportunity. And then we can mark our start date and we can mark, however long we want to repeat this until. Let's say we'll do this into February of 2026. And then our start time and end time. Now, this is really nice, that way you don't have to create, multiple roles over and over and over again. If you have the same recurring, opportunities that come up, it's just your opportunity to kind of list them all out and let people sign up, as they come versus like creating individual ones over time. So it's kind of a nice way to do less for more. All right, so now that we have all of this filled out, we're going to click Create Opportunity. And this is going to show us this standalone opportunity. We have the title and the role associated with it, how often it's recurring and the date it's recurring till, the duration, and the start time and end time of the, first occurrence here. And then if you scroll down, you can see all of the upcoming occurrences. I really liked this assigned section. If you do assign enough people to a specific role, like let's say I got both volunteers, 2 out of 2, for, the 12th, then this will turn green. So it's a nice way to kind of visualize whether you have enough people for the role or whether you need more. Now that we have this opportunity we've created, we can add volunteers to the opportunity. So you'll see this big button over here, assign volunteers. We're going to go ahead and click on that. Oh, well, so this is a good teaching moment. So typically, we'll have volunteers listed here who have this social media management role, in their profile. It looks like I don't have any volunteers with that social media management role. So I don't have any volunteers to sign up for this specific event or opportunity, sorry. Let's go to a different one. So now that we're back here, just as a little refresher, all we have to do is click select and view, or we can hit select assign volunteers if we want to go directly into assigning volunteers. So here you can see I have my social media support role, and I have a few volunteers that, fit the role for that. So all I have to do is select occurrences, and I can see any occurrences that are open that need to be assigned. So I'm going to assign Jordan a few of these roles, and maybe I'll sign Maggie up for a few as well. Perfect. So now that we've signed some people up for that, if we click back in to view the standalone opportunity, I can see that there are certain dates that have been fulfilled, that both of the roles have been set. I can see all of my volunteers and which dates they've signed up for in this section here as well. If I want to cancel any of these, I can always click the X over here and, cancel that opportunity for that volunteer. So again, pretty nice way to manage your volunteers, create these different opportunities for them, and assign them to them. Now, what does this look like from the volunteer side? I feel like that's a really good question, right? Of, okay, well, I'm doing this on the admin end. What are my volunteers seeing? Me randomly, signing them up for all these opportunities. That's why we have this login for your volunteers, is because they'll be able to track this as well on their end. So I am going to pull up a volunteer account. So if I'm logged in as a volunteer, just want to show you what that looks like. There we go. All right. So if I'm signed in as Maggie Driscoll here, you can see this looks similar to what we see as venue admins, but it's similar to being an event restricted user, right? You have less settings, less to look at. It's just a smaller version of Thundertix that's specified to our volunteers. Typically, it will open into my schedule. So here on my end, I can see all of the opportunities and events I've either signed up for or someone has signed me up for. I can see, what role I'm playing, the arrival date and start time, the departure date and end time, and the duration of the volunteer shift. Now, I can also click on past assignments if I did want to see, the past things that I've done as well. And I can also click cancel on any of these if I wanted to, cancel my shift. Then you do have the opportunity as a volunteer to cancel any assignments that you've been assigned or have signed up for. Now, if we scroll down just a little bit here, you'll also see upcoming opportunities. So this is going to be a full list of opportunities based on the roles that I have, selected for myself that I'm able to register for. So if I want to register for a few of these, I can, and they're going to pop up again right in my schedule here so I can see what I'm working with. Now, if I needed to make any edits to my profile, I can always click Edit Profile and make edits that way. There are a few other things in this profile that you can see as a volunteer. We have the scan in function. If you're a ticket scanner, your volunteers are going to be able to scan tickets, through their profile as they log in. They can become a ticket scanner. We also have this events section. If you decide that you want your volunteers to see the specific events and all the information with the event that they're signed up for, you do have to add them to the event, just as you would with any event restricted user. And then they'll be able to view the events in their event manager. And lastly, we have this support, drop down. Your volunteers, once again, will have access to our video tutorials and our knowledge base if they do ever want to look anything up. We do have some support articles that are related to volunteers. So just a few things here. I thought it was good just so all of you can see kind of the other side of what your volunteers are going to experience once they have an account. Alrighty. So now that we're back in our admin account on Thundertix, the last thing, or I guess there's two more things I really want to show you. The first is pretty much pairing your patrons with volunteers. So, as I was saying, oftentimes our patrons are also our volunteers. And as many of you know, we have our patron database, which hosts all of our ticket buyers, our donors. We can look up patron profiles on that. So I think it's really important for you to be able to link your volunteers to a patron profile. That way, if you're pulling up a patron profile, you're going to be able to see that they've been a volunteer on top of being a ticket buyer, a donor, a member, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to show you quickly how you can make sure your volunteer profiles are linked to your, profiles in your patron database. So this is kind of like it works both ways, but I'm going to show you first from the patron database. We're going to click on patron database here. And we're going to go to CRM and mass mail. Okay, so we are in our patron database. We have three of our, customers here and their profiles. We're going to click into Olivia here. So we're in Olivia's profile. If we scroll down here, there's going to be a section now on all of your patron profiles that says volunteer information. And this is going to allow you to link your volunteer profile to this patron profile. So if we click link volunteer and we search for Olivia, she's going to show up here and we can add her. We do have this option if you wanted to add additional roles at this point, you totally could. We're going to add her as a greeter too. And then we're going to click link. So you can see here now her volunteer ID, which you could click right into her volunteer profile there, is going to be on her patron account. And if we refresh this, you are going to now see a volunteering summary on her patron profile as well. So again, just a good way to see, if someone's a donor, a volunteer, all of those good things that would help us, give them credit or recognize them for their work. Now, this also works the opposite way. If I go into my volunteer manager and go to volunteers, if I click into Richard's profile here, and I scroll down, I can also, let me unlink him real quick, just so I can show you. You're going to see patron information here, and you can link the patron. So I can look him up and link him that way too. Now, if you sign up a user that already has their email associated with a patron profile, it automatically links their profiles. So that's a really good thing to know, that you don't have to go in and manually do this all the time, but you just have to make sure it's the same email. So something to consider there. Okay. We've gone over a lot so far. I only have two more things to touch on, and these are two reports that you can use to manage your volunteers. There's kind of two things that I feel like people primarily need to see when they're managing volunteers. One is volunteer hours, how many hours someone volunteered, or the number of hours people volunteered within a specific period of time. And two, even just quickly generating a list of everyone who has signed up to volunteer for an event, if you need that in a report. So first, I'm going to show you if we click on Volunteer Manager. If I click into my Volunteer Manager, and then I can go down and click on Volunteers Report. If I click on this, I'm going to see an option to, select a certain date range in which I want to see, the volunteer hours that were worked within that date range. And it's going to show me a few things in this report. So let's say I set up this range and I click volunteer hours. It's going to take us into our reports download section. If you've downloaded other reports with Thundertix, you've seen this before. And then once it's finished downloading, I'm just going to show you a quick example of what this report looks like. So we can see here, there's a few things you're going to see in this report. Over X period of time, we can see, the name, email, information about that volunteer, either the event they, volunteered at, and or the standalone opportunity. So you'll see those listed, whether it's an event or standalone opportunity, the number of hours that was, assigned to them, the date, arrival time, departure time, and total hours. So this is a really nice report, again, to visualize all of the volunteer hours within a specific period of time. Now, there's one other report that I think is, good to know, which is actually going to be in your events section. So if we go into events and event manager, and we click into, any event, what we can do is go over to this reports tab here. And if you scroll down, you're going to see a report called Export Volunteer Signups. That's going to allow you to see a list of everyone who signed up to, work a volunteer opportunity for the specific event or performance, if there's multiple performances. Now, this is going to look like this. I just wanted to show you another example of what this report is going to look like. You're going to see the performance name, date, the role, and the description of the role, how many volunteers like you needed, start time, end time. Actually, quantity, it might be hours. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, Callie, but I think it might be hours. Yeah, it's hours. So number of hours for the volunteer opportunity, start time, end time, and then your volunteer, information. This way you can quickly pull a report of, prior to the event, let's say you're like, we need to print out a list of everyone who's working tonight and what roles they're working. This will allow you to kind of quickly visualize that and have that at the tip of your hands, just in case you need it. Alrighty. Now, that concludes pretty much all of our, volunteer management features that we have built out and designed so far. I will say, this wasn't mentioned in the webinar, but this feature is available with any plan that you have with Thundertix. It's available to everyone. It's not an upgrade. The volunteer, management feature is out there for anyone to use. So even if you use parts of it or want to, test, play with it, you totally can. It's out there. It's, on your accounts. So we really hope you go out there and just, test it out and see how you feel about it. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. We really, really appreciate it. It was, lovely. Unfortunately, not to see you, but to hear your questions. We appreciate all of your ideas. Please reach out to Callie and I via a support request. If you have more ideas and want to talk more about it, I'd love to hear them. And yes, thank you all so much. I hope everyone has a great day.